Hey everyone, it's me again. I need to cut to the chase here because I was going to do an Ask Frank episode earlier, but because of something that sprung up that I'll get to in a minute or two, I think I'll push it off to either Saturday or Sunday. Okay? Now, on to the topic. Earlier, while I was playing Roblox out of boredom, someone was asking around if they were abused in their life. Naturally, I said yes, and practically because I have been abused, but I'll get to that in a minute. And apparently, this kid asked me if I ever had cuts or a shock collar. And after we started chatting about that, apparently he's been abused to the point where he can't even walk and has breathing difficulty. So, practically, that's what I want to talk about this afternoon: child abuse. Like I said, yes, I'm actually a victim, and I'm also a survivor of child abuse, actually, because honestly, if you watch Autumn's 1-year anniversary video on her channel, my sister/best friend Autumn, and practically, if you watch her video, she mentions that I've had a really bad hardship with my father, but she didn't want to get into detail because of just how bad it was. Well, that is indeed a true story. Before you ask, yes, I am fine. My fractured chest is healed, and my black eye is gone. But still, point being, yes, I have been a victim of child abuse, and as much as I hate to say it, I took one of these online tests recently, and according to the test, there's a possibility that as a result of this, that I now suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder as a result. Yep. So, point being, I'd like to talk a little bit about child abuse and spread awareness for this. Child abuse, not only is it wrong, but it's sickening. And not only that, child abuse is something that nobody in their right mind would do. And that's why I'd like to talk about that today. So, from what I've come to understand, there are really 3 types of abuse around. There's physical abuse for starters, there's mental abuse, and there's the worst kind, sexual abuse. So, physical abuse is what I'll start off with. Physical abuse is when the abuser inflicts physical harm on the victim, causing great amount of pain. The fractured chest and black eye incident I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned the black eye or not, I don't remember, but that is a good example of physical abuse.
Only the names have been changed.
And, yeah.
Only the names.
But believe it or not, in my opinion, that's not the worst kind of it. Mental abuse is the second kind, and mental abuse is when the abuser says things to his victim that get to the victim's head because it's like he says hurtful things to the victim. Like, mental abuse is like bullying, but on a far more serious level. And practically, mental abuse is the most common form of abuse that I've been exposed to, because I've had a lot of bad things said about me, especially in my younger years, none of which were true. And honestly, that's a lot of what caused my depression and everything. Then there's the worst kind. There's the third kind, sexual abuse. Sexual abuse can come in 2 flavors, physically and mentally. Mental sexual abuse is basically sexual harassment. Like, the abuser talks to the victim and says things about the victim's, air quote, private parts, and generally makes fun of them, and other parts that the victim might view as being private. Practically, and before I forget, sexual abuse physically, no offense to anyone, it's basically rape in a nutshell. But I'm not going to get into that because I don't want to talk about it, because it's sickening. But point being, yes, I have suffered from all three of them, physical, mentally, and sexually. Autumn has been a victim of mental and sexual abuse. Like practically, it's, like, I wouldn't call it bullying, really, since, really, from what one of her friends told me, like, the school there is just bad, and, like, the kids are often stuck up, no offense to them. But, yeah, like, they just think that everyone likes to pick on her, like, blame her for everything. So anyway, back to the topic. Now, I'd like to talk about what you should do if you are abused in any form or manner. Firstly, in case the person who's telling you, like, or air quote, abusing you or hurting you, in the event that they're not doing it on purpose, let them know that either you're hurt, you're offended, or whatever. Because if it's mentally or sexually and you're offended, but they don't mean it, then let them know that you're offended. And then maybe they'll stop. Or if they're doing it on purpose and they don't stop, avoid them. Try to get out from under their grasp and tell a trusted adult. And if it gets bad enough, notify the police or another guardian, and they'll do something about it. If it's at your school, try informing the principal or duty teacher. And after the incident, try to avoid the abuser as much as you possibly can, if at all. So yeah. And if you want to know, here are some terms you may or may not be familiar with. A lot of the time, abusers who are solely abusive in a sexual manner are known as creepers or sex offenders. Both creepers and sex offenders, it's not only is it wrong to associate with them, but it's wrong to even show respect to them because of how gross it is. And practically, there have been many counts of sex offenders and creepers coming around. And practically, if you get caught by a creeper and manage to escape him, avoid him, no matter the cost. So yeah. And if you were abused mentally, and if it's severe enough, you could talk to a friend about it, and your friend may be able to help you get over it. And if not, ask a psychologist about it, or a counselor. What's most important is friends stick together. If you are abused, notify your friends about it, and they'll be able to stick up for you and help you combat your abuser.